How's it going, Welcome back to the Great Creek North. My name is Wade Murray, and today we're going to be talking about heat stress in lawn, fighting heat stress, proper irrigation techniques, and everything to do with that. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now this is my backyard. This entire backyard, I believe, is about 1600 square feet. And this area, or 16,000 square feet, this is a big backyard, and it faces south. So it faces east-west. So the sun rises in the east, right? Rises over there, goes right over us, and sets in the west down there. So this lawn gets pounded with sun. As you see, we have trees on the left, trees on the right, but in this middle area right here, we are plain open to collecting all sun. We also have a hill here, and this hill just literally faces the sun, gets beaten by the sun. So I did a couple things back here over the years to try to fight heat stress, keep it green, keep it healthy, and keep it from dying. But this year I've been excelling at fighting heat stress because I focused on the couple key tactics that are going to help me fight heat stress this year. So without further ado, let's go through them right now. So first of all, there's two evils that will fight your lawn during the summer: heat stress and drought stress. They are two different things. Surprisingly, they're often lumped together in a similar storm, but they are two separate different things. So let's talk about what the difference between the two of them. Heat stress is basically the same as what you would feel when you go out on a hot day. You feel tired, you feel sweaty, you feel exhausted. The lawn cannot handle the overall heat of the outside air and is therefore starting to check out. This normally forms when it is above 80 degrees Fahrenheit wherever you're located. So anything above 20, you're collecting a lot of heat stress. Basically, the lawn it has to sweat and transpire to basically cool itself down from the amount of heat outside. Drought stress, on the other hand, normally coincides with heat stress. It's from a lack of water received from the sky in the soil. The soil begins to dry out. The plant cannot intake enough water to cool itself down. Therefore, it starts to, go brown, start to go dormant. That's called drought stress. So basically, drought stress is from a lack of water, but heat stress can be felt from lack of heat. So even if we're into the year like this year where it's been quite wet, we've had a lot of irrigations, but it is quite hot today and my lawn is feeling a lot of heat stress. So if you feel your lawn on a hot day, you might feel that it does feel quite damp when you're feeling down in the roots, and that is from a method called transpiring. So just like when you sweat when it's really hot outside, your lawn does the same thing. When it's really hot outside, your lawn transpires or sweats to cool itself down. Now when it transpires, it sucks up water from the roots, and it needs more water to therefore transpire it back out again. So this is where, when it's really hot, your lawn begins to use more water, and that's normally when you end up having drought stress following in a couple days if it hasn't rained. Two factors, they often tend to coincide. So when we talk about rain or lack of rain affecting water, and you check if you have a hydro-wise or any sort of irrigation system, you're going to see what's called an ET rate, and that's called your evapotranspiration rate. So those are two different things that affect the lawn differently. So let's break that down and talk about how it's going to affect your grass. So your evapotranspiration rate is the evaporation combined with the transpiring that your grass has done in an average day, and how much water that is consumed. So there's two things that are being consumed. It is really hot, the water is evaporating out of the soil just because that water on that top layer of the soil, there's just too much sun, it's pulling it out of the ground, it's evaporating. That's just water lost into the air. It wasn't used by the plant, lost into the air. Your transpiration rate is the amount of water that your lawn is using and transpiring to help cool itself down when it's hot outside. So on a really hot day, your ET rate, or your evapotranspiration rate, is going to be really high, because not only are you losing a lot of water just to the air because it's really hot, but you're also losing water because your lawn is sweating it back out again. So you're probably thinking about, how does this affect my irrigation? Well, on a really hot day, your ET rate is going to be quite high, but on a not hot day, your ET rate is going to be quite low. Now, golf course superintendents or lawn care professionals, they follow that evapotranspiration rate to the T and try to input the same amount of water that their lawn lost every single day. So ideally, when your lawn loses a lot of water, if you lose 20 millimeters of water in a day. Now that's way over exaggerated, but let's just say that you lost 20 millimeters of water in your lawn through your ET rate today. That means that night you need to be inputting 20 millimeters of water back into the lawn to come out net, to come out zero. You didn't lose any, you didn't gain any, and that's how ideally you're going to keep your lawn the green, the healthiest, and the happiest throughout the summer. Now obviously we can't do that. We can't input the amount of water we're going to lose in the summer. So we're going to have to, you know, play with it a little bit, make sure that we're inputting the same amount of water we're losing. But there's another couple things that can affect the amount of water your lawn might need. The two big things are the humidity in the air and the dew point in the air. Now, the humidity in the air is basically the moisture that is currently sitting in the air. Now, those would be on a day that you would consider very muggy. Now, for those of you in the center of the country, mugginess is something you don't experience quite often. It's just something that doesn't happen. But for those of us located near the Great Lakes, or for those of us located near the coasts, humidity is something we experience on a regular basis. The water comes out, we get these really hot fronts before the thunderstorms roll in. And this humidity in the air is basically a moisture in the air that the lawn can easily access. So on a day like today that's quite humid, the amount of water the lawn's going to lose and its ET rate is actually lower than it would be on a day where there's no humidity, because that moisture in the air is sitting in and around the lawn, and the lawn can access that moisture in the air and use it to help cool itself off. Therefore, it doesn't need to transpire as much, because it doesn't feel, you know, as hot as it would be if it was a dry heat. Now, another thing that affects the amount of water your lawn loses is wind. Now, that wind goes right across the grass and it pulls that water out, just like you would have if you had a blow dryer on your hair. You're trying to blow your hair dry. The wind does the same thing to your lawn when it's on a windy day. So a hot day that's not humid combined with wind is probably the worst, you know, combination you can get for heat wise affecting your lawn. So there's a couple things that you can do to fine tune your irrigation to help fight those things. Now, when we're talking about fine tuning our irrigation, basically we're talking about making sure that we're not wasting water and we're not using any more water than we need to use. So a couple things to keep in mind. What type of soil do you have? Do you have a lot of clay soil? If you have a lot of clay soil, the soil is very hard, and it's very hard for the water to penetrate the soil, and you tend to get a lot of runoff. So there's a couple things you can do with clay soil to help use as much water as possible. You can try to use a wetting agent or humic acid. This is something that's going to help loosen up that soil, allow the water to penetrate deeper and healthier. You can also check your pH of your soil. You might need to, you know, do a couple things to help make sure your soil health is more amped to accept that water. So that's what wetting agents and humic does. It helps basically make your soil more amped to absorb the water and make the water more readily available for your plant. Another thing you do when you have clay soil is making sure you prime the soil for when it actually is going to rain. So if it is quite dry and there's a large rainstorm coming, it does seem weird to say, but it is good to water your lawn, you know, maybe about 10-12 hours before that rainstorm rolls in. That basically, you're priming the soil, you're wetting that top surface of the soil, and you're removing that crust, so that when it does rain, that water can be easily absorbed into the soil and you're not going to get as much runoff. So this is a couple things you can do to help, you know, promote your clay soil to absorb more water and make it more healthier. But when it comes to watering with clay soil, watering deep and infrequent is always the best way to go. Little bits of watering, they're not going to penetrate deep enough, they're not going to get into the soil, and they're not going to be able to preserve that water layer that you need in the top, you know, 4 or 5 inches of your soil. It's just not going to happen. Now, when it comes to people with sandy soils like me, you need to do the opposite. Putting down wetting agents and humic acids are great. They're going to help, you know, preserve the amount of moisture that your lawn can access. They're going to help make sure that your soil is nice and soft and it can absorb a lot of moisture, but it's not going to do, you know, prevent that runoff that you're going to get from clay soil. But what you are going to get a lot more with clay soil is draining or irrigating. The water is going to go right through your soil, right down to your wells and aquifers and everything that's below the ground. So a couple things to keep in mind when you have sandy soils is making sure that you actually water more frequently. So this is something that I learned recently. I used to water deep and infrequent. I was watering about every 3 days in my back lawn here, and I was watering for about an hour and a half in each zone. But I was noticing that it was drying out in between, and the times in between waterings were too long. So that, you know, the waterings were doing something, but the drying out still in between. So what I changed to was I changed to watering every other day for about half an hour, 40 minutes. So in the end, it's still about the same amount of water, but it's being putting down more frequently. And because it's always, you know, keeping that top, you know, 4 inches of soil wet, that's helping my lawn stay green longer and stay healthier longer. So that's something that I'm really happy with, that I fine-tuned this year with my irrigation. So far, it's been working. We're going to be put to the ultimate test this week. We got a big, hot, kind of humid air mass coming in through. And then another thing too, checking the dew point and checking your humidity is very important, because if you're putting down too much water and you have a really hot, humid days, you can be basically promoting disease in your lawn, and that disease can come in and just wipe your whole lawn out. So putting down a lot of water is never the best thing to do anyways. Sometimes it seems a little counterintuitive, but on those really humid days, you don't need as much water to keep your lawn green and healthy. Now, another quick thing to talk about here is what type of sprinklers do you use? There's two types of sprinklers. There's oscillating sprinklers and there's impact sprinklers. Impact sprinklers make that, lovable sound that everybody gets to hear in the summer. It's a lawn care nuts dream sound, and those sprinklers are really good for calming heat stress and drought stress. They keep the water low to the soil, so you're not losing as much water to wind, as the wind can take the water away. That mist that is created are like the misters, at Canada's Wonderland or whatever amusement park you go to. They help cool the grass down as well as water the grass, and it's a very good way to put down a lot of water quickly. Now, oscillating sprinklers are good for square shaped lawns and other things like that. When they're shooting way up in the air, they are wasting a little bit of water when that wind comes up. And again, they don't have that same misting technique that the impact sprinkler does. But if an oscillating sprinkler is all you have access to, it is going to make a big difference. But those impact sprinklers are definitely better for irrigation. Now, when it comes to in-ground irrigation, you have rotors and you have spray heads. These are two different types. Rotors are what I have in my lawn. It's basically a single spray and it rotates around, sprays. It has a 360, or if you have an MP rotator, and it comes up and it sprays on a constant spray, and the head itself does not rotate. So taking everything else I said into account, what you need in your lawn every week is an inch to an inch and a half of water per week, and that's talking about vertical measurement. The best way to measure this is to go get yourself a rain gauge, pick it up at your local Canadian Tire home hardware store, or you can get yourself a Tupperware container, just leave it out. Whenever it rains, you will fill up that vertical inch of rain. If you get a tuna can, that works perfect, because a tuna can is about 1 inch deep. You need to fill that tuna can every week, so I would do that in 2 separate waterings, about a ½ inch each time. But you need to also account Mother Nature's water as well as the dew point, your soil type, everything else we just talked about, the humidity, all that stuff can really impact your watering. But keeping all those things in mind, if you are putting down an 1.5 inches to a full inch of water per week, depending on all those other factors, your lawn will be green and healthy, just like mine. You'll have an amazing summer, and you'll be able to be the envy of your neighborhood, the only green lawn in the summer. And in the end, there's only so much you can do. Nothing beats the irrigation of Mother Nature. So supplemental irrigation from Mother Nature can always help keep your lawn green and healthy. Nothing beats a nice good rainfall from Mother Nature. You can fight it as much as you can with irrigation, but nothing's going to give you as green of a lawn as that beautiful irrigation from Mother Nature. One more thing to keep in mind, if you're someone who's on a budget and you can't water your lawn this summer, and that's something you're just not going to be able to do, there is 2 things that you should do. Water your lawn about at least once every 2 weeks for an hour if you can. This is basically going to help keep the crowns of the plant alive. So when your lawn goes dormant, the entire leaf structure goes dormant, but the crown is basically the brain or the head or the heart of the plant that's way down at the soil. And as soon as that crown there's not enough water, that crown dies. So the reason why your leaf surface goes brown is because it's conserving water just to keep the crown alive. As soon as that crown dies, you lose the plant. So keeping your crowns alive is going to help make sure that when your lawn does come back in the fall, it comes back green and healthy. Looking at late in the year, you're going to make sure that you got lots of fertilizer, a little bit of grass seed, a little bit of aeration to help repair anything that was dead over the summer. But just knowing that if you add that little bit of supplementary water, that can put you miles ahead of somebody who didn't water whatsoever. So without further ado, that's the ultimate watering guide here from Great Green North Lawn Care. I think that pretty much covers all of the bases, but if you do have any questions, you can submit them to me in the comments down below, or over email, greatgreennorthlawncare@gmail.com, or on my website, greatgreennorthlawncare.ca. From the Great Green North, my name is Wade Murray. Thank you guys for watching. As always, any other questions, leave them down below. And as always, keep it green.